Once in a small, forgotten valley surrounded by mountains, a young quarter horse named Lark was born into a world of hardship. Her mother, a once proud mare, had been abandoned by her previous owner, and Lark's first memories were filled with the sounds of wind howling through barren fields. The valley was unforgiving, the soil dry, and the people who lived nearby had little use for horses anymore. The world seemed vast, but every day, Lark grew more certain that she would never escape her desolate home. Lark was just a foal when she realized something that hurt deeper than any physical wound: she would never belong. Every day was a battle for survival. With no one to guide her, she was forced to learn the harsh realities of life in the wild. The other horses in the valley, though they had survived like her, were distant and cold. They didn't seem to believe in hope, and neither did Lark. But one winter morning, as snowflakes danced in the air, Lark met an old horse who had wandered into the valley. His coat was matted with the gray of age, his eyes dimmed by time, but his presence was a quiet storm of wisdom. His name was Solace, and although he was far from home, he carried with him a sense of peace Lark had never known. "Why are you here?" Lark asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Solace chuckled softly, the sound of it like wind brushing against a distant ridge. "I've seen many valleys like this one, my young friend. The world is wide, and it can be cruel, but it is also full of promise." "Promise?" Lark's voice was a mixture of confusion and skepticism. "This valley has nothing but emptiness. No one comes here. I've seen enough to know that tomorrow is just more of the same." The old horse looked at her for a long moment, his eyes filled with a quiet understanding. "Tomorrow, my dear, is not a guarantee. But it is a possibility. Every new dawn carries the chance for something to change, if you're willing to trust it." Lark shook her head. "I don't believe in tomorrow. I don't believe anything will change." Solace moved closer, his old legs slow but steady. "I've lived long enough to see how seasons turn. Even in the harshest winters, spring always arrives. It may not be on the day you expect it, but it comes. And sometimes, it comes when you least expect it." The young horse stood still, processing the words. The wind howled louder, but she felt something shift inside her, a small ember of possibility igniting. She was used to pushing through life on her own, but Solace's presence gave her something unfamiliar, the faintest inkling that maybe, just maybe, there could be more to life than just surviving. Over the coming days, Solace stayed by her side. He didn't give her answers to all her questions, but instead, he gave her something much more precious: patience. He taught her to watch the clouds as they passed, to feel the rhythm of the world that was often too quiet to hear. Lark began to see the beauty in small things: the soft glow of a sunset, the sound of a trickle of water finding its way through frozen ground, the silent promise that the world was still turning. Then, one fateful day, as spring began to touch the valley with warmth, Lark felt it change. The snow that had suffocated the land for months started to melt, revealing hidden sprouts of life. A lone traveler passing through the valley stopped and saw Lark. He was a rancher, new to the area, and he had been looking for a horse just like her. He didn't see Lark's scruffy coat or the weariness in her eyes. He saw potential, the same quiet strength Solace had seen in her all along. "You're stronger than you know," he said as he approached. "You belong with us." Lark hesitated, her heart racing with doubt. But as she looked toward Solace, she saw him nodding gently, his eyes filled with the certainty she'd never felt before. With a deep breath, Lark made her decision. She stepped forward, choosing to believe in the promise of tomorrow. Solace, seeing his time with her drawing to a close, simply smiled. "It's not always easy, but tomorrow will be worth it. Remember, the valley you leave behind will always be a part of you, but it's not the end of your story." As Lark left the valley and began her new life, she carried with her the lesson she'd learned: hope isn't always about seeing the light immediately, it's about trusting that it will come even if it takes time. And in the promise of tomorrow, she found her place in a world that was far bigger and brighter than she had ever imagined. This story highlights the theme of change and the importance of trusting in the future, even when the present seems uncertain. It's about finding hope in the darkest of places and the realization that life has the potential for transformation, no matter how small the first steps may seem.